So here we are, Town and Country, Herts and Essex, Harlow branch today, our headquarters, and this is the first of many videos that we're going to be doing over the pursuing months and years of everything to do with the property market. And today we're delighted that the lovely Emma is with us from the Mortgage Store, one of our preferred brokers.
That's nice.
Yeah, I know, and I'm full of.
Yeah, I can see you're smooth already.
And what we've done, Emma, she doesn't know the questions that she's going to be asked because we thought that was probably the best way.
Thank you for that.
So what we've done over the last couple of weeks while we've been waiting to get you down here, is that we've been speaking to some of our vendors, some of our buyers, some of our friends and family, and we've actually been asking them what they would like to know about the process of getting a mortgage when they're either a first-time buyer or whether they're moving up the chain, the property ladder, or down the property ladder, and seeing if there are questions that you can answer. And of course, as you've already said, for every question you can't answer, you will be making a donation to one of our affordable charities
Yes.
to the tune of £500 each. No,
you've got a big enough pot.
And these are not in any particular order. And some of these, I have to say, I don't even understand them either because I'm just a meagre estate agent. But the first question, which is from Derek, Derek's one of our old vendors. I think we've sold 2 or 3 houses for him now, is what's the difference between a discount and a tracker mortgage?
Right, well, a discount mortgage normally tracks the standard variable rate of the lender.
Right.
And it's still a discount is still a variable mortgage in simple terms, and a tracker mortgage will generally track the base rate of England.
Okay.
So they're both variable mortgages. One will do the standard variable rate of the lender at that time, and the other is tracking the base rate.
Right. So just so I understand this, then, so if you've got a discount mortgage or a variable rate mortgage, and that ever mindful, ladies and gentlemen, boys and girls, although boys and girls shouldn't be watching this because it's too boring for you, that there are certain things that we can and can't say that would step outside the laws of financial your rules and regulations that you're governed by.
Yeah.
So, but I'm okay in saying that. So if you've got one of these discount mortgages and you're with Joe Blogg's Building Society, and their rate for the mortgage when you take it as a discount or variable mortgage is 6%. That will dip up and down depending on what their rates are set at, and are not governed by the Bank of England's rates necessarily.
Technically, again, it just depends on the lender and the deal at the time, but generally, for a set amount of period, it tends to be slightly lower than what the lender's standard variable rate is.
Right. So
it can be for a 2-year, 3-year.
Right. So it's just an incentive to ease you in.
Yeah.
Okay. And a tracker will track the Bank of England interest rate, which is at the moment 4.5%.
Yeah.
Yeah. So it will track that at some sort of gap above it. So in other words, if you're with a Joe Blogg's Building Society and you're at 5% and the Bank of England rate is at 4.5%, and that goes up 0.25%, yours will go up 0.25%.
Yeah, generally, again, it depends on what the lender's suggesting at the time on the deals that they're offering. Generally, with both mortgages, though, they have low ERCs, early redemption fees charges. So
explain an early redemption fee.
An early redemption charge is basically, I'll call them ERICs, but don't ask me why.
ERICs.
ERICs. Basically what that is, it's like a time charge. So if the client ever wants to come out of the mortgage, you tend to get them you get them with fixed rate mortgages.
Right.
You might get the odd lender that, won't charge that, but then you'll pay slightly higher interest rates for that. But generally you have lower early redemption charges. So if a client's just kind of looking, depends on the client's circumstances really, if they're looking in a short term to, do home improvements or to move, something like that, it might be more advisable to go that route than fixing them in just in case they're going to incur such charges.
Okay, okay. So, Derek, I hope that answers your question. I certainly understand it a lot easier now. Thank you.
Yeah.
Annie, dear old Annie.
Annie.
Yeah, look, she's a not a first time buyer. She's got her first mortgage.
Right.
She's had it for a couple of years now, I think, and she wants to know: are all mortgages portable?
Generally, they are.
Right.
But again, it depends on the lender and the deal at the time. It normally will say on the illustration and on the mortgage offer whether it's portable or not. More specialist cases may not allow it to be portable, but generally they are. But again, not every single one will do it.
Okay, so I guess if you've got somebody that's got a mortgage with the ABC bank,
Yeah.
and they've had it for a couple of years, and they buy another house, they might want to port that mortgage over onto their new property. But are you saying that? Are you allowed to say?
Yeah.
So, okay, Annie, you're looking at buying this house now for 500 grand and selling yours for 300 grand, and maybe you're looking for a £200,000 more mortgage, and you're with the ABC bank, but you should really speak to a broker in case you can get a better deal with another lender.
Well, I would always advise when taking out a mortgage anyway, if they've got plans to do that in the near future, or they want the option of porting, always to thoroughly read, and as a broker, you would go through that with them and the illustration and through the offer to make sure that they.
But just digress. So just so I can get this clear, yeah, I know I understand what you're saying.
Yeah.
But surely when people take out a mortgage, especially their first mortgage, because they would tend to be younger,
Yeah.
generally, they might not really, I mean, they might buy a house. I think everybody buys a house and think, well, we'll stay here for 10 years. We'll stay here for 15 years. Or this might be our forever home. But things change, don't they?
Yeah, they do. They do. And that's a discussion that I will have with a client and kind of gauge what their goals, aspirations are in the near future, in the future. So yeah, that's as an advisor, that's why we do a full fact find and just kind of gauge what the best advice will be based on their circumstances.
Okay. God, vanity in front of the camera. I've got to put my glasses on, you see, because I can't read my own writing.
You love it, don't you?
I know, I do. Hey! I actually was going to come off piste a little bit there and speak about something else. But first of all, Tom has emailed us in, and I think I know what Tom means. Does doing too many dips affect your credit score? Now, too many dips would probably make me dizzy. But I think what he means is that if you apply for too many mortgages, that could have, because they'll do a hard search on you.
A DIP is referred to a decision in principle.
Oh.
AIP, agreement in principle, same kind of thing. So again, it depends on the lender. Some will do soft searches and some will do hard searches. So this is something we clarify right at the beginning with the client, that, you know, we will get acceptance.
Excuse me while I drink my coffee, by the way.
we will get agreement from the client in writing, like on an email or something, to kind of say, are you happy for us to proceed with a decision in principle or agreement in principle?
Okay.
Some are soft searches, some are hard.
And do you tell the client if it's going to be a soft or a hard search, or so you know that?
Of course,
as a broker. Okay.
Yeah,
okay.
Of course.
So you go through that whole, because that will be that's all a part of your compliance and doing your job as a financial advisor. Yeah.
Yeah.
So that's what I actually wanted to come with. So really, Tom, you need to speak to your broker. In fact, you should be speaking to Emma, really.
Come to me.
Yeah. Come to me.
I'll look after you.
Yeah. And I just thought of what I wanted to ask you, and then it's just like gone again.
I have that effect on people.
I know, I've heard. There's some rumour in the truth. Okay. All right. Well, but I'll think of it again in a moment. This is actually a question that I put in the mix. So What is the maximum amount of years that you can borrow over?
Generally, it's anything between 35 and 40, but you can do 40 years with some lenders. Some are 35, some are 30, you know, but the max will be 40.
Right,
and it's obviously age dependent.
Sure, and is there a?
So of course you'll be able to, Jeff.
Exactly. I was hoping for a 40-year mortgage. I'd still only be 65 when I know matured.
You're maturing well.
I am.
I need to know your secret.
I had a very hard life. Have you know that I've got the skin of an 18-year-old? The trouble is I'm stretching it. So, but as a rough rule of thumb, is what would you say is the oldest you can be to get a 40-year term? Generally, can you say that, or is it just not possible to know?
It depends on the client's, like when they want to retire.
Right.
Really.
Okay.
So it's a case. We've got some lenders that will go to 75, even 80.
Really?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
But obviously that would, yeah, so different sets of circumstances.
Yeah.
Okay.
So I could be the judge of that.
Yeah, okie dokie. You may or may not be able to answer this next one because it might not fit into your remit of what you're allowed to say.
Oh,
but
I thought you were going to say because I'm too young and I wouldn't know.
They have ways and means of making you talk. What's your view on this new 10-year fixed rate mortgage from the Halifax?
Well,
shouldn't have said Halifax. I'll edit that out.
No, that's all right. No, you can say it.
I can say
it.
No,
there are, along with the Halifax, there are a lot of lenders.
Now you've said it.
Yeah, on our panel that will look at more long term mortgages. Okay. And again, it just depends on the clients. It's case by case, and whether it's work. I will go on their goals, their aspirations, what they're feeling about the market is, what their plans are.
Do you not think, because my initial reaction, being cynical by nature, is that it's great to see that the mortgages are coming down and down and down and down since that dreadful Liz Truss debacle. Yeah,
and I've seen a few come down again today. So.
Oh, really? Okay, so so the lowest I'd seen before today was 3.99% for a fixed 5-year, and in fact the Halifax is 3.99 for 10 years.
You love the Halifax, don't you?
Well, I do, because they're the only one I've seen offering to. But the cynic in me says that if an organisation as large as them are fixing a rate for 10 years, the cynic in me suggests that they've got to be pretty confident that over the next 10 years the rates are going to come down and down and down, which will make that fixed rate not a very good thing for them, and not such a good thing for Mr. and Mrs. What's their names, getting a mortgage for the first time or whatever.
Yeah, well, that's a good valid point, and as I say,
but that's got to be good for the market. That the major players are now reeling people in with this, because everybody's been worried about their mortgages for some time, and rightly so. Because we've all had. You're all too young to remember when mortgage rates were much higher than this anyway. I'm certainly not. But most people are, and we've had cheap money now for such a long time, and people are sort of panicking. And I think it's a great idea that they're doing this 10-year fixed rate, but I think that in the back of their minds they're thinking, well, rates are not going to get much higher, if any at all, and they're going to come tumbling down, not to the levels that they were a year ago or 18 months ago, but you think in essence, because it's security. For some people, if they can afford it, affordability is obviously always key in the mortgage game, isn't it? So therefore, they haven't got to worry for 10 years. They're going to be able to, if their circumstances don't change, they're going to be able to afford their mortgage for 10 years.
I mean, the long-term ones are good for the clients who, want to play it safe. But again, it's kind of gauging their thoughts and views.
Okay.
Like your thought, that's your thoughts on the market, and there's no right or wrong. Someone else might be completely different.
Okay.
So
I've remembered the question I wanted to ask
you.
Because
had a sip of coffee.
No, I've drunk it. Oh no, I haven't. Hang on. This one, I haven't had many cups today.
Oh my God.
This one has puzzled me for some time, and I guess I probably know the answer, so maybe I'm playing devil's advocate a little bit here. But when people are looking to go to a mortgage broker, and it may come up in a question later, which is fine. So when people are looking to come to a mortgage broker, they can come to you, they can come to any other independent mortgage broker, or they can pop into their local branch of XYZ and speak to them. Obviously, if you go into, I'm allowed to mention whoever I want, so we'll stay with Halifax. So you can go into Halifax, and they're only ever going to be able to sell you a Halifax mortgage. Is that right?
Yeah, generally, because I used to work for Lloyds TSB.
Right. Are you allowed to mention them?
Cheltenham and Gloucester days.
Who? What?
Cheltenham and Gloucester days.
Cheltenham and Gloucester.
Yeah.
Gosh, I remember them.
Yeah, so generally back then, mortgage advisors, if you go direct to the bank, they would just be limited to their products.
So that's fine, especially if maybe somebody banks with that bank and they want to keep it all in tight. But you can obviously get mortgages with the same bank. Yeah, so if I'm looking for a mortgage to buy a house and I want to go into that bank over there, I can go and speak to them, and I can also come to you, and you could do me a mortgage with the same bank, and the deal's going to be the same?
At the mortgage store, basically, we're appointed representative of Mortgage Intelligence. So we've got a comprehensive panel of lenders that I can get access to a range of different products, a range of different lenders, and exclusive rates.
Great. So this brings me on to my second part of the same question. Why, oh, why are there mortgage brokers out there? And I don't think that the general public know this. So there are 3 mortgage brokers, mortgage broker A, B, and C. Mortgage broker A has got access to, let's just say there are 3,000 different mortgages out there, because I think that's what I was being told around about the Liz Truss time, when 3,000 products were removed overnight from the market shelf because mortgage companies went, whoa, hang on a minute, we're not giving a mortgage out till we know what these people are up to. But whatever, let's just say there's 1,000 different mortgages available. Mortgage broker A can offer you any one of those that's right for you out of that 300. Mortgage broker B can offer you half of that plus another 150. Mortgage broker C, which as I understand it would be in your case, actually has got access to the entire market.
Well, it depends on what network they're with.
Right.
And what's on their panel.
Yeah.
But generally, I wouldn't say there's any broker with the whole of market, because RBS, they don't go on any panel, they're direct.
It's a bit like Direct Line don't go on any comparison websites. Okay.
So
okay, but
we've got access of.
But some brokers have got access to a lot more than others.
Yeah, it depends on the network.
Why? If I was a mortgage broker, why would I not want to be able to offer my clients as many different products as I possibly can? Because if you've got access to twice as many as me, you're more likely to be able to find a better deal for that client than me.
Well, there'd be advantages and disadvantages, as I say.
You're being very diplomatic here with your answers.
Yeah, I just think the panel that I use now is amazing. It's, I've always, even challenging cases, I've always managed to find something. I do love a challenge, as well as, I'm always out there to help.
Okay.
I'll always find a plan A and a plan B.
And if you can't do a plan A or a plan B, you'll try and find a plan C.
Yeah.
Okay. I just wrongly assumed.
It's very rare that I wouldn't find options for people.
Sure, and I understand that, but I always assumed as a member of the general public before I became involved with property that, when you went into a mortgage broker, you were basically going to be able to be offered the same thing as going in anywhere, rather like going into a bank, really. We know that they all do slightly different deals on their, but does it really matter for the average Joe if you have your current account with Barclays or Lloyds or NatWest or whatever? But with mortgage brokers, that's really not the case, is it? Because you just don't know when you're speaking to them, if you're dealing with a broker that's got this access to far more deals that could save you a considerable amount of money in the long run.
Well, it's quality over quantity, isn't it? It is quality.
Allegedly.
They say that, don't they?
All right then. Okay. Here. Interest-only mortgages.
Yes.
Do they still exist?
What, on buy-to-lets or residential?
General. I mean, everybody went interest-only, didn't they?
Oh,
Some years ago. They
yeah.
were the in thing, and you took an endowment policy
God,
out.
Yeah. Now you're showing your age. I thought you was 18.
I know, because I had one of these damn things, and obviously the whole idea was that at the end of the term,
You take the endowment off,
the endowment covered the interest on what would be the interest on the mortgages. You just carried on paying your X amount a month, and then the endowment policy took care of the rest of the mortgage and cleared it.
Yeah.
We all know that in reality that never happened because the world went skewed.
Yeah.
But generally speaking, if you're looking for a standard mortgage for buying a house,
So a residential.
property,
Yeah, no,
you can still get
you
interest.
Still do it. There's, again, all lenders are different with criterias on there. So it depends on the client and what they've got, what they've got. Some lenders look at the equity amounts, what they're earning, if they've got investments.
Okay.
Are they going to sell the property? Are they going to downsize? There's all different factors involved. But yeah, the answer to your question is yes.
Okay. This next one is actually from Lee's sister Shelley. That she didn't write in. She asked Lee to bring the question in, but I think it's quite a good one. What is the average time from mortgage application to offer?
That is a good question. Average, I would say between 8 to 12 weeks if it's a standard purchase. But again, it could be a little bit shorter if we need to speed things up, and we've got great solicitors, But then down the mortgage journey, there might be some things that they find on the properties. There might be a chain involved, and it could be, we could have some factors involved that it could take 6 months, 8 months,
Okay, but that's down to there being a problem with the purchase, in the sense that something may have come up in searches.
Could be all sorts, yeah. It could be all sorts of different factors.
Right. Okay.
But if it's, to run smoothly, it depends on how busy the lenders are.
But if you do a mortgage today.
By the way, Lee's in the background because he just said.
If you do a mortgage today, how long normally from application do you get a mortgage offer?
Oh, again, depends on the lender. I've been known to get one in 5 days. Depends whether it's a remortgage or a purchase as well. I could get one in a week, 2 weeks, sometimes a month. Again, depends on the lender, all different factors.
Is that down to workload from the financial institutes? Because generally
depends on the lenders as well, because they do give you a service update on how, if they're up to date, if they're on day one, they might be 14 working days behind. But I do check this all out, because if someone's looking for a quick turnaround, I would obviously look at the most cost-effective deal for them, but take into account that they need someone who's going to work quick.
Okay, that's cool. Tick that one off. I just thought of another one then, and it's probably not on the list. So I know a lot of these questions today are going to be generalisation.
Yeah.
But I'm just going to paint you a scenario. My microphone's decided to fall off here. That we've got Janet and John, and they're first-time buyers, and they've decided, they've saved up a few bob, and they've got, let's just say, they've saved up £30,000.
Yeah.
There or thereabouts. What do they need to do as a rough mathematical equation to work out, first of all, how big a mortgage they could get? So let's say...
This is the question I get most days.
Yeah, and I know that there's going to be some variance on that, but you've got Janet and John, and they both do exactly the same job. I'm covering my backside here so I don't get into sexual equality, and they both earn £40,000 a year. So they've got a joint income of 80 grand. Yeah. Is it still sensible for them to take that 80 grand and times it by 4.5?
Not sensible.
Not sensible. Okay.
Not sensible.
Okay.
Every lender's got different multiples.
Right.
Some lenders have minimum income that you can earn over a certain income, and then the multiple might go up.
Right.
If you earn under that, you might have a different multiple.
Okay.
It goes on terms, it goes on credit rating, it goes on adverse credit, it goes on commitments, how much they're paying each month, their income and expenditure. So we have to do a full budget planner.
Okay. So there is no mileage in Janet and John saying we've got 80 grand a year coming in gross.
Yeah.
And therefore times that by 5.
Yeah.
Just there were times I can remember when
I
people
could
used to
be
time
rich
it by.
if the amount of times I get, Emma, I earn this, how much can I borrow? Bang, I could give the answer. No, it's not the case.
Right. Okay. And just say meat different gravy. It used to be a real bugbear of mine when I was young that mortgage
What do you mean you are young?
Yeah, I know, but I know I am, but I've got the old mask on today. I can just remember when I bought my first house that I was living in rental accommodation in the East End of London, and I got some money together and enough for a decent deposit, and I was looking at buying a house. But I would have preferred to have stayed in and around the East London area because my kids were all at school, etc., 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 etc. However, I couldn't afford to buy a property in the East End of London because the property was too expensive for the mortgage that I could get. So I ended up buying a property on Canvey Island.
Oh.
Okay, now the irony of that is that every day I travelled back to my offices in Leighton, and when I actually added up what I was spending on fares every month and added that to my mortgage repayments, I could have afforded a mortgage for that amount of money and still stayed in the East End of London, because they never used to take into account travelling. But I understand now that that's not the case, that some lenders will actually add that into your outgoings, where they never ever used to. It used to be done purely on income, as and then the price of the house and very little else really.
Yeah, they will look at that.
So in other words, then, if you've now got a couple, excuse me, that live in, say, Southend-on-Sea, and they both commute into London every day, and they're both spending 6 grand a year on travelling expenses, that 12 grand is taken into account when they apply for a mortgage to buy somewhere.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
Good.
So, I mean,
because
they
I always
get London waiting again. You look at the
yeah, of course. Yeah. Okay. No, that's good. Oh, how long do offers last? Do you know there's no name against this one? Why haven't I put a name again? How long do offers last? And if they expire, will you still get offered the same rate? So here we are. I've applied to come to you for a mortgage, and I've got my DIP.
Yeah.
And I'm looking.
Decision in principle.
Decision
for
in
those
principle.
who don't know what a dip is.
Yeah.
Not a dip in the pole.
as in a stick. Stick, no. And I'm looking at property in and around the £400,000 mark, because I've got a 40 grand deposit saved up, and I can afford the repayments on a £360,000 mortgage, you've told me, and I've got my decision in principle. Now that lasts generally for 6 months?
Average 3 to 6 months, depends on the lender.
Right. Now, can I just stop you there?
Yeah.
Okay. Because the average conveyancing time in the UK at the moment is 18 weeks. Yeah. So if I only get a dip for 3 months, it is always going to have to be renewed before that purchase is completed.
Generally, the lender will extend the offers.
Right. Regardless of if it's 3 or 6.
Yeah.
Right. Okay.
Yeah.
And in your experience, do most of them honour the rate that it was given at in the first place?
Some do, some don't. It's the lender again. I know I sound bored, but
that's
generally what the lender's discretion is.
And can it work the other way? So I get my dip off of you today,
Yeah.
and it's 6 months. Yeah, in 2
Hang on,
months.
are we talking about an offer or dip?
Oh, I don't know. Mortgage offer. Sorry.
Yeah, mortgage offer.
A mortgage
Let's
offer.
go with
Sorry.
mortgage
Yeah.
offer,
So
yeah.
just ignore me. I'm dumb. So I got my mortgage offer. Yeah.
Yeah.
Because I can afford it.
Yeah.
And it's got 6 months to go.
Yeah.
Yeah. But something goes wrong with the conveyancing. There's a problem with the chain, and it goes on and on and on and on. And it has now become blatantly obvious that offer is going to expire before I can complete on this deal.
Yeah.
Right. So what you're saying is some will, some won't. But what happens if in that time rates have come down? Is there a chance that my new offer could be lower?
Yeah, generally during the course of the mortgage journey, we can swap the product, as we call it, if it all completely fits, and we can swap the rate. Yeah.
Oh, right. So it's not all doom and gloom then.
No, not at all.
Right. Okay. That's good. Well, I don't know who sent that question in, but thank you. We just didn't put your name down. Okay. Lovely. If you have an offer, but the rates go down, can you switch product?
We've just said that.
Right, but I was so you can actually switch. So I've got my offers with the ABC Bank.
Yeah.
And it runs out, and there's the rates have come down, and you can now get me a new offer, but with the EFG Bank.
Yeah, we can look to do that as well. Yeah,
Right.
we can
Okay.
look to do that.
So you don't have to stay with the same people. Right. Okay.
Can I just butt in, sorry?
Excuse me.
See with the Halifax, and you had a fixed rate of 3.5%, and then 4 or 5 weeks into the buying process, they dropped it to 2.5. Could you change
the product? Yeah. During the course of the mortgage journey, it's obviously when you complete you can't, but during that time you can. Yeah, absolutely. Yeah.
Okay. Now we've got one in from Alan. Good old Alan. Can mortgage setup fees be added to the loan above 90% loan to value?
When you say setup fees, you talk like product fees. Yeah, as long as it stays 95 and under. Yeah, if it goes over 95, then no, he'll have to pay it up front.
Okay. Thank you.
But what you will, what I know, I would thoroughly go over this, is obviously we would advise to pay up front if they've got the money, because you're spreading that interest over the term of the mortgage. But I would go through all of that anyway with the client.
Know your stuff, don't you?
I like to think so. I'll slap him after.
I should. I live in hope. I should have asked this one, really, tag that on to, are there any interest-free mortgages still available? Because Mona wants to know, are there any guarantor mortgages available?
There are some lenders that will do the guarantors still. What is quite popular is, oh God, I can't fit joint application sole proprietor. My brain went then. Which basically you can add a family member or a friend, depending on the lender, and you can purely just have them on there for income reasons. But then the person who's going on there for that wouldn't be on the deeds of the mortgage. So it's very popular with first-time buyers getting on the ladder. The dad comes on with the daughter.
Cool. I wished I'd have had one of them a few years ago.
Emma, just on that then, if the children, the daughter, the son, doesn't pay the mortgage, does the guarantor, the parent, have to then make that monthly payment?
Yes, and generally what the lender would want is some legal, that they've gone to see a solicitor, which they have to pay for. We got whoever they go to see to say their sound of mind, and they actually understand that either if it's a joint application sole proprietor, that they're not on the deeds and they're happy with that. And if they fall behind with the mortgage, they're liable for it. It will show on their credit rating as well. Yeah, and the same with the guarantors as well.
And they all, I've never heard of those mortgages before. So they've been around for
you learn
forever.
a thing every day, don't you?
Oh, no.
They've not been around forever, but they're very popular. I've done quite a few of those in the right circumstances. But yeah, they're called joint application sole proprietor.
Remember that one, Mona. Joint application, sole
Sole
proprietor.
proprietor.
Yes. If not, phone Emma. We'll give her number out at the end of all
Yeah.
of this, don't worry. No name on this one either. I'm going to sack my PA. Do all products have tie-ins?
Not necessarily, no.
Right. Can you explain to our viewers what that actually means?
And when you say tie-ins, is this what we touched on earlier, early redemption charges?
Yeah.
Yes. Yeah, so you can get the odd lender who will do a fixed rate. Generally, a lot of fixed products will have early redemption fees to come out of the mortgage.
Okay.
But you will get the odd lender that will, we can source it for the right circumstances. But then trackers, discounted mortgages, generally either have low ones or none at all. Again, if it's a bit more of a short term thing, then it's there is mortgages that
Okay.
don't have them.
Off the top of my head, I've just thought of this. We were talking a little while ago about how long a mortgage can be, and it can be up to 40 years now. Are 25-year mortgages still the most popular?
Oh, do you know what? I don't think I've done one recently, but no, it really differs these days.
Does
It
it?
really differs, yeah.
So what's the minimum term then?
Oh, I've done a 5-year.
Have you?
Yeah.
What have you got to earn to be able to clear? That's all dependent. Would that be a big
Could be
deposit?
an age thing.
Yeah.
It could be a loan to value thing.
Big deposit?
Could be, yeah, or a little mortgage. Really does depend on the client, but no, the terms fluctuate.
Just going back to when I was a lad, there was probably only ever a 25-year mortgage. It seemed to me that everybody was on a 25-year mortgage.
Yeah. Now it's all about looking at what the client's budget is, what they can afford comfortably, what they would like it roughly to be, what their budget, what their max budget is, and giving the best advice on, because I wouldn't do a 40-year if they could afford it over 25 years, for example.
Because they're going to pay more money
Yeah.
over 40 years.
Yeah.
But so it's really, because I mean, look, for the older people watching this, it's just been a game changer, these mortgages. They're so different, because I can still remember when I was a young man that you really struggled to pay a mortgage in the first 5 years that you had one. It was really tough for most people.
Yeah.
You had to forget about holidays and the new car and the latest TV and all of this sort of thing. But slowly, as your mortgage, depending of course on the state of the economy, but as your wages went up, it became easier and easier. And most of the time, by the time people were into their 15th year, it was a breeze. And then, for that last 10 years that they had a mortgage, it was almost a negligible expense, but it's not the case now, is it? You're looking at it, it's just different.
Yeah, it's there's a lot of different options.
Yeah.
A lot of different options. And what I would do is obviously fully do a sit down and do a full fact find with clients, and I would look to fit a client for their needs.
Okay.
Yeah, and give the best advice.
Just one thing, while I remember it. Can you borrow more over a longer term? So say you can't borrow enough over 25 years. If you suddenly took your mortgage 35 years, would the lender lend you more money?
We factor in on the calculators their commitments and their age and everything like that. But generally, if you spread the term longer, all the calculators are different, but it's not with every lender, but generally,
Okay, that's cool. We've got a good one here from Terry, who's my son, actually. We didn't just get every question from members of our family.
Started young, didn't you?
I know. What is the minimum years trading for self-employed to get a mortgage?
Well, the minimum trading is 1 year with some lenders. You're limited on lenders. However, there are a good few big lenders that will look at
on that 1 year, right? Okay, and the more years, the more things are open.
Generally, it's 2 years, and they would like to see 2 years SA 302s and tax year overviews. Some will look at net profits. Again,
SA 302s are
the tax calculations if
right.
you're self-employed.
Okay, And I remember when I got my first mortgage, I was self-employed, and my accountant, I don't know what way round it was, he was certified not chartered, or he was chartered and not certified, but the mortgage, whatever one he was, the mortgage company wouldn't allow him to sign off on my accounts. So I had to go to a different accountant. Does that
Yeah,
still
that's
apply?
still- yeah,
They've got to be certified or chartered. What is it? Can you remember?
Well, they want to know what their qualification is.
Right. Okay.
Not all lenders, but the majority that I've used, they will want to know. But I've never had a problem with them saying, no, you can't use that accountant.
Okay.
Because there's so many different qualifications for them that I've discovered now.
No, that's good. And I don't suppose, I mean, again, before you were born, probably,
Thank you.
you used to have a mortgage that was called self-certification.
No,
Do you remember that?
No, I don't. That
No.
was before my time.
I thought it would
That
have
was
been,
before my
but
time.
they were brilliant, weren't they? For those of you that are too young to remember, you literally just used to say to them, I earn 60 grand a year or 20 grand or whatever. It wouldn't have been that much in those days, and they just used to lend you the money.
Yeah.
That's basically
That's
what.
why the country went on its backside, wasn't it?
Yeah, self-certification. So they
Yeah,
don't.
no, that was way before my time. I don't think it was before Lee's time, though.
No, he remembers them.
Yeah.
Okay, we're going to touch on buy-to-let.
Yeah.
Okay, so we've got Gerald that wants to know, what is the minimum deposit for buy-to-let?
Okay, so generally I would advise 25% because you're going to have more flexibility on lenders.
Right.
However, there are lenders out there that will look at 15%.
All right.
Yeah.
So not a great deal more
The
than
difference will be is the rates.
Yeah. So if you get the 15%,
The rates
deposit,
will be higher.
is there some sort of broad stroke difference of, like, is it going to be 2% higher, 1% higher? I know it's going to vary. Can you not say?
Varies
Yeah.
on the loan to value, to be honest.
Yeah.
Varies.
Okay. So there you go, Gerald. 25% as the norm.
But you could do 20 or 50. 15's the minimum
Okay.
that you're going to be. Like, I mean, I'll always show the difference to clients.
Yeah. Now, we had this come up from a couple of people, actually. Can you explain a let-to-buy mortgage?
A let to buy, everyone gets confused. So what a let to buy mortgage is, it's a bit like buy to let, but if you're living in a property, say you live in a flat, and then you decide to move into a house, but you want to keep that flat and rent it out, because you've lived in it, it's called a let to buy. So you've lived in it basically, and then you're going to go and buy an onward purchase to live in, and you want to rent it out. Whereas a buy to let, you've never lived in it. You just buy a property purposely to rent out.
Right, and so the criteria there is, but the rental income that you get for that property, does that have to cover the cost of the mortgage?
Generally on affordability, again, it depends on the lender with their criteria on affordability. Generally on buy-to-lets and let-to-buys, it goes on the rental income, the affordability. Some will do something called top slicing, which if you fall short on affordability with the rental income, if they're working and they get a salary, we can always top it up to get it affordable using top slicing, as they call it. Now, not all lenders do that, but there are quite a few that will do that. And again, some lenders will have a minimum income on a buy-to-let that you need to be earning. So it's kind of secures if the rent didn't come in for 6 months, or they had to throw them out or something like that,
Okay.
that they could afford the mortgage.
Right, and when people are doing buy-to-let, because obviously, and let-to-buy come to that matter.
I love them. I do quite a bit of them.
Good.
Yeah.
Do the mortgage companies insist that the landlord then takes out insurance to cover the fact that a tenant may stop paying rent, or is it just one of these things that it's advisable to have it?
It's advisable. The obligation is to have buildings insurance before exchange, like on mortgages. But it's advisable, it's sensible, but it's not an obligation to have it to help out with the insurance. Yeah. And that's something that TMS, I've got some great colleagues who will look at that as well.
Okay.
Yeah.
That's cool. I think you've touched on this one then. Are there lenders that don't require proof of income for buy to let?
Well, there might be a minimum income. There are a couple of lenders that will not really take into consideration. They don't want a minimum income. They look at the rental income rather than what their employed income is. However, they might want to see a tenancy agreement to say that like there's one in place and that they're getting rental income, look at bank statements on there. Or like I said, what I've touched on, want some kind of contract to say that they are working, just for security for the lender, to say, God forbid anything happened and they didn't have tenants, that they could afford the mortgage payment.
Okay, thank you very much. Now, this next question has come in. I love this name, Daisy.
Daisy.
Give me your answer, do. Are there lenders that will offer subject to debt being cleared to help affordability? Now, there's no punctuation in this, so I've got to read this again. Are there lenders that will offer subject to debt being cleared to help affordability? Do you understand that?
Yeah.
Because I don't understand
again,
it.
there are lenders that will, in the calculators, you have to put it in, even if it's going to be, and they will take it into consideration. But yes, lenders will take that into consideration. The underwriters will look at all of that, and they might even say you can have the mortgage subject to paying this particular debt off, and they might want proof of that.
Okay.
But yes.
Because I will digress and go and flip from here to there and everywhere. You keep, well, I've heard you use the word a couple of times, underwriters.
Yeah.
Yeah. So I go back to Little Britain, David Walliams and Matt Lucas, and computer said no.
Oh, yeah.
Are these decisions made by human beings now rather than computers, or do they still program all the data in and the computer goes or ee?
Well, I'm not 100% sure on that, but I do talk to human beings, and it's refreshing actually. It's refreshing because, you know, every case is very different who you deal with.
Yeah.
And as long as there's a rationale behind it, and ultimately it's up to the underwriter. They've got a job to do, and obviously they've got rules and regulation with the lenders themselves. So yeah, generally I do talk to underwriters, which is quite refreshing.
Yeah, that is refreshing.
Yeah.
Because for too long it was computers that were sort of like, because human beings can actually think a little bit differently, can't they?
And the logic, because 9 times out of 10 there is a rationale behind things.
Okay, thank you, Emma. We've not got many left now.
Oh.
Do lenders take into account second jobs and how much of this income can be used to obtain a mortgage?
Good question. The answer is yes, they do. They look at benefits, they look at maintenance payments. Again, I'm going to sound boring, but it depends on the lender's criteria on how much they will take. Some will take 50%, some will take 100%, some will take 60%. It all depends on the lender. Okay,
can I just expand on that then? Because I know a couple of people that actually do 3-4 jobs. Does it go beyond second jobs? Suppose if somebody had 3 jobs.
I'm looking at a case that did have 4 jobs.
Really?
I don't know how she done it.
And I know you do wonder, don't you?
Yeah.
But does the percentage, because obviously it starts off at 100% for your main job, does it generally speaking, the percentage
Depends
reduce?
On the lender.
Oh, really?
Lender, yeah.
Okay. And when you, because
and whether you actually need it for the affordability.
I know you'll say this a lot, and I understand exactly why you say it, and it depends on the lender. Am I right in thinking that lender A, and you go to them with a case, and they say yes, and repayments are going to be £2,000 a month, that 6 months down the line, their criteria has changed and you could actually go back to them with an identical case and they would say no, because we've moved the goalposts, or yes, and yet this time round it's only 1,650 quid a month because various things have happened. So I guess what I'm trying to say in my stupid roundabout way is, do individual lenders, because you say it depends on the lender, but that lender doesn't always stay consistent with what they offer.
They've always, and that's the thing, as brokers, we have to, it's like driving really, we have to really keep up to date with our knowledge, because lenders do tend to change their criteria, and it could be good, it could be bad, you know.
Yeah, because
generally it's good for advantages.
Yeah, because you could get one company that don't do a particular type of mortgage, and I've heard rumours that sometimes lenders will offer X amount of mortgages at that rate, and when they've all been taken, they change their rate again, or is that just tittle tattle rubbish?
I mean, yeah, it's, you know, they are forever changing stuff. They keep me on my toes, that's for sure.
I'm sure they do.
But it's all part of the fun of the job, really.
Yeah.
It keeps my brain ticking over.
Okay.
That's for sure.
Are defaults over 3 years ignored?
No, I wouldn't say they're ignored. I always say to clients, be honest and upfront and totally.
Well, you can't really be anything. I'm sure
You've
some
got to
people
declare everything,
because it will come out in the wash, won't it?
Yeah.
So, ladies and gentlemen, if you've got a CCJ, County Court judgment, or you've got a default against anything that comes under the Finance blah blah Act 19 blah blah blah, tell your broker, because you're going to save yourself.
Even if it's not on the credit report, because
right, okay. So what? There could be something that's not on your credit report that shows up in a.
Yeah, they're not always gospel. So if you know that you've had some adverse credit or you've had some issues, and I'm not just that, you know, could even be voters' roll, you know, that could be wrong on there, and that can affect getting a mortgage as well. If there's anything that's not on your credit report, always tell your broker, because as long as you're honest and clear with them, we will be able to do our job properly, and it doesn't waste anybody's time.
Okay, so
it's not I'm not saying you can't get a mortgage, because there are a lot of specialist lenders out there that will totally look at it. So
specialist lenders that look at things like adverse credit still exist.
Yeah.
Right. Okay. So I think a lot of people were under the impression that obviously, again, it depends on people's ages, but we had the last crash was 2008, or thereabouts.
I remember that.
Yeah, and then, as I understand it, the whole financial sector of mortgages was re-regulated again in 2014, where they made it much harder for people to get a mortgage that they genuinely couldn't afford. In other words, you had to prove affordability before they were offered that mortgage.
Yeah, it's just being sensible, really. We have to go through a process where we make sure it's affordable for the client. So, you know, so they don't come unstuck and get in financial difficulty.
So you could, because it's never ceased to amaze me. One of my sons was at one time a bank manager for Barclays, and he told me stories that used to make my hair curl. That, you know, people that were millionaires getting turned down for mortgages because they'd had a default on their mobile phone bill 2 years beforehand, and just genuinely and theoretically they had enough money in their bank to pay cash for the house, but they couldn't get a mortgage because they'd forgot to pay a £25 bill.
Yeah.
So do they still come off after 6 years? Or is that a fallacy as well?
It depends on the if it's a default, if it's a CCJ, if it's...
The CCJs come off after 6, yeah?
It depends on whether it's cleared, satisfied, and all of that type.
Oh, right, okay.
Yeah.
But if it's cleared and satisfied, do they still not come off straight away?
No, not straight away.
Do they not?
No. It will be on the credit file, but I would always advise, even if it is over 6 years, just mentioning it, because it's always good. I can always go to a lender and just be upfront and clear with them. Right, they've had this, and they will say, we won't even bother looking at that, or I need to add it down. Because as long as I've been honest with them, or the client's been honest with me, it's when you're not upfront that they won't even take consideration. It's good to be honest.
Yeah. Okay. Just before we bring this fantastic because it's really been great that you've
It
come.
has,
Yeah, no, really appreciate you coming down.
Thank you for having me.
For those of you that haven't seen our brochure, I've got one here.
Here's one I made earlier. I'm
This
very impressed with
This is the new one. You may have had one of the old ones, but we've devoted a whole page
I mean, I definitely
to
love
Emma
that
there.
page.
Yeah, and is that really you? And
With
no, I
dark
can
hair,
see it is.
actually, yeah.
I know. But we will be giving Emma's phone number out at the end of this. I just wanted to go back to basics. So, I kind of look. It can be first-time buyers. Obviously, first-time buyers have never done this before. But obviously, you can also come across people that have almost paid their mortgage off, or maybe have paid their mortgage off, and now they're suddenly going through that process again. Now, if they got their last mortgage 20, 25 years ago, again, it's a whole new world, isn't it? So we as estate agents, when we have an offer in on a house, and they offer £300,000, and the vendor says, "Okay, I'll accept that." Excuse me. We still keep that property on the market while we carry out our due diligence on them. Yeah. So if they haven't got their own mortgage broker at that time, that perhaps they've only got an agreement in principle, which we all know is really easy to get. You can get one just like that, really, can't you? You're never going to get a mortgage, but you can get an AIP or a decision in principle. But we will always say to them, okay, well, look, if you've got a broker, we need written confirmation from your broker that he's seen enough stuff from you to satisfy him or herself that they are okay to get a mortgage, subject, of course, to this going forward, and then digging deeper. Or if they haven't, we will ask them to phone you up and get qualified. Yeah. So what do they need? So today I've had Janet and John go and view a house, and they said, "Oh yeah, we've got an agreement in principle, but we don't know about getting a mortgage." And so, okay, well, here's Emma's number. Give her a ring. You can find out what you can do. Make sure that you can afford it, etc., etc. What in theory do you need off of them as far as proof of income? They need wage slips.
Yeah, I mean, on the outset, I will send them like a documentation on what documentation they need based on whether they're employed, self-employed. Generally, I will ask for 2 forms of ID.
Right.
Normally, photo ID and proof of address.
Okay.
As in date.
Yeah.
I'll also get consent for an electronic identification.
Okay.
But I'll have to get written consent off of them that they're happy with that.
Yeah.
And so that's the kind of ID side of thing. Now, ID could be a passport, driving license, and then we need proof of address. It could be a utility bill, generally not a mobile phone bill, but a utility bill, like council tax. But it needs to be dated in the last 3 months, and it should show their name and their address on the form.
Okay.
And then 3 months bank statements dated in the last 3 months. Sometimes I need 4. And also, if it's a deposit, proof of deposit.
And if there's a suspicious, not suspicious, that's me being a cynic again. But if there's suddenly a £25,000 deposit, and that's because their Auntie Betty has given them a very nice wedding present, Auntie Betty has to send you a letter saying that it's
Depends on the lender. They generally have their own templates.
Oh, right, okay.
So I would go through that with the client. But
because we're talking about money laundering here, and they've become really, really hot on that in recent years, haven't they? Making sure that it's not just money that's put into a bank that's then whipped out just to get them the mortgage, and then it can be whipped out again.
Yeah.
You have to prove that it's yours.
Yeah, definitely.
Yeah. Okay. Because I know we've had a couple of those situations where, we've just what do you think? Or other times we've just had one recently, no names, no petrol, with a young lad that's only in his late 20s, early 30s, first time buyer. He's bought a house off of us for 850 grand, and he got turned down on his mortgage. So he's paid cash for it.
Oh, wow.
And you think, really? But it all went through all the checks. He had the money. Yeah, but he just wanted a mortgage because his accountant said it was better for him to get a mortgage than to pay cash. But he got turned down for a mortgage. I don't know why, because we're never privy to that. That's classified information. But yeah, so it can be really, so it's IDs.
Yeah,
so you've got to have your IDs, ladies and gentlemen. So you've got to have your passport.
Yeah,
Or
and
your,
then
what do
proof
you
of
do for
income.
someone that doesn't have some of our more senior citizens, perhaps, that don't drive and that have never been outside of these shores and haven't got a passport or a driver's license? What happens to
We
them?
normally do an electronically identification.
Off the electoral? Oh, no, how do you do that then? Sorry.
We've got a system that.
Oh, right, okay.
So we normally do that. It could be a birth certificate, and then they probably have utility bills still.
Sure.
They?
Yeah. So there's ways around it for those people. So I've heard stories about this before. People say, I haven't got a driver's license and I haven't got a passport.
Yeah.
My mum never had a passport and never had a driver's license. So she would have been stymied, really, wouldn't she?
Yeah.
Okay.
No, there's all ways around it. Yeah.
Right. So thank you for coming down today.
Thank you.
We will have you back.
Oh, thank you.
So listen, if any of you out there need any mortgage advice, don't go to her. No. Phone Emma up. We'll put her number on this video, or if you just phone us up on 01279 295524 and ask for Lee or Jeff, then we'll make sure we put you in touch with Emma. And you want your mobile number up there, yeah?
Lovely, yeah, that'd be lovely.
This one. I'm going to give it out to you now, actually. So it's 07951 738 286. 07951 738 286. Give Emma a ring and mention Town and Country, and she'll look after you and do you a good. No, you won't. You do a good deal for everybody. But thank you for coming down, and we'll speak again to you soon.
Yeah, thank you for having me.
Bye bye, everybody.
Bye.